Hello world, I'm out in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada, and with wind chill, it's nearly minus 40 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. When it's this cold, the minus 40 is the same using either scale. I'm with my friend Sherman Kong, who runs Maple Leaf Survival. Today he's going to show us how to build a snow shelter to survive in the winter.
There you go, you're at the edge of it now, yeah. Pretty good. So Sherman, what are we building here?
We're gonna try our hand at building a Quinzee winter snow shelter. Basically a pile of snow, carve a hole into it. We just finished stamping out a little area where we're gonna site and pile our snow. And the reason why we did that is just to provide some stability to the large amount of snow that we're gonna place on top of it. So that's the first step that we're gonna do. Let's start piling our snow.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't taking a nap behind the Quinzee.
Right.
I was trying to get an idea of whether or not it's going to be big enough for us. Because if what you're doing is building one of these for a survival situation, you don't want to make it any bigger than you need to, because chances are you're probably going to be heating the inside of the Quinzee with your own body heat. So making it any bigger than is necessary is not going to be a good use of your own body heat. So seeing as we're going to try to fit the both of us in there, I think we're pretty close. What we're going to do is let it set for about an hour and then come back, and we'll start tunneling our way in. But for now, I think we're pretty close. What do you think?
I don't know, you're the expert. I have no clue. So that over there is about 25 minutes of work. And apparently we just gotta let it sit and cure and dry. I don't know, I'm not the expert on this stuff.
We're gonna let it set up.
Right.
And kind of congeal, if you will. The idea behind that is right now it might be a little bit too fluffy to dig into. So if we start digging into it right away, it's probably gonna be a little bit too powdery still. So if you can imagine, like, if I were to take this fluffy snow and try to make a snowball and just went like this, it won't stick together. So to a certain extent, you kind of have to hold the snow together for a little while and let it congeal again, if you will. And then it'll hold its shape. So it's kind of the same idea with the Quinzee and why we're letting it sit for a bit, so that it doesn't just fall apart when we start digging into it.
Yeah, saw it.
Well, I just kind of threw some snow up in the air because it is kind of windy. I want it to be a little bit more certain of the direction, the wind direction, to help me sight my door. And right now it seems like the wind is going to be blowing right into the doorway that we're going to create, but for visual purposes, it'll be fine. So as we're creating our entranceway, what you might feel inclined to do naturally is to take your shovel, place it into the area that you want to create the entrance, and then pop it up. The problem with doing that is that if you dig your shovel in, pop it up, you might risk kind of cracking the front face of your Quinzee, which would be bad. So one way to combat that very easily is, instead of going down and up, you go down and away, so that you're not putting any forward pressure up into the frame of your Quinzee. And downward. And you only want to make, if you can, the entrance as big as the largest person that's going to go into it, and no more. And again, that's to try to make sure that it's not as drafty as not any draftier than it needs to be. The thing about Quinzees is that when you're carving them out, you want to do exactly that. You want to carve the snow out and not hack it out. And the reason for that is because it just reduces the chances of it collapsing because of an over-aggressive shoveling in the inside.
Have you done that before?
No, but I've seen it done.
This Quincy looks an awful lot like Mount Fuji.
Yeah. The other thing that you want to keep in mind when you're hollowing out your Quinzee is that instead of going straight through, as you're carving your Quinzee out, you want to take away some of the snow that's above you as you're moving into the Quinzee. And the reason for that is if you simply carve straight through like a tunnel, then you have a lot of weight above you. That could potentially collapse your Quinzee. But if all the while you're carving in, you're also removing snow above you, so it's in, above you, in, take away a little bit more, then all the while you're also taking the weight that's above you away. This is a tremendous amount of weight, and if it were to collapse on you while you're inside it, carving it out, it could be fatal. Because you might not be able to get out. It can be very difficult to breathe, especially if you're on your back. Plus, when Quinzees collapse, they're very quiet. And so if you're with a friend and your friend's even 10 feet away and it collapses on the person inside the Quinzee, that person might not even know that it happened. So safety is very important.
It already feels warm in there.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Nice and peaceful too.
Peaceful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is tiny, I can't see anything. That's like minus 24, I think, outside in the shade without any wind chill. So we're gonna see how warm it gets in this Quincy here. Right now it's still, I just put it in, so it's like minus 22, but we'll see. So this Quincy is basically long enough to lie down in for a couple people, maybe 3, I don't know. It's much warmer in here than outside, so I'm just gonna stay in here. So Sherman's pretending to do survival, where he's just taking cut firewood out of his MEC shopping bag here.
I did cut it though.
He cut it indoors.
I did cut it. This is for demonstration purposes only.
I think your hands are demonstrably cold though.
They're getting cold. I've dug down to the bare ground, and especially in winter condition, you want to get down as far as you can to the bare ground. In this case, we were able to. And we processed our wood inside, and I've processed it in such a way that it's kind of graded. So it goes from smaller pieces to a little bit larger to larger. And the idea behind that is they'll all build upon each other. I'm gonna start off with some shavings of wood that I prepared and a little cotton ball. And what I plan to do, and I hope it works, is shoot a spark into the cotton ball that will ignite these wood shavings.
Okay.
That will hopefully light some of this kindling that I've prepared. And the device I'm going to use today is called a fire steel. But essentially what it is, it's a rod made of alloys, and it's a modern day flint and steel. It should produce a spark.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get this fire going, man.
Yeah, let's
Cold.
go going because I'm starting to lose the feeling in my fingers.
Oh, okay, you dumped it in.
Yeah. I'm gonna take this cotton ball and I'm gonna fluff it up to give myself a little bit more surface area for that spark to hit. Kind of place on top here, but I don't want to suffocate it either.
Smells like hemp. I already feel like it's gonna be it's a lot warmer in the Quincy than it is sitting around this fire.
Yeah, you might be right.
I don't know, if you want to warm up your extremities though, it's nice, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen that made like that before.
It's nice and stable, and you're able to feed it from different directions. Lots of airflow. Doesn't chew through wood too quickly. So if you want to boil or turn snow into water, oftentimes what people do is they'll take a bunch of snow and pack their pot or whatever they have full of snow, put it on the fire. The problem with that is it tends to kind of melt the bottom portion initially, but then the snow provides insulation and it'll take forever to melt your snow, and you'll be sitting there wondering why it's not melting. A better way instead is just to melt a little bit at a time, get some liquid in there, and then add snow as it starts to liquefy.
Okay.
So it didn't take long to get our fire going.
No, not at all. That metal seems it's gonna be very hot to touch.
Yeah.
Are you just gonna melt your gloves or what?
Nah, hopefully not. It's melting quite quickly.
Oh, so you just throw a whole bunch. Okay, I see. Getting water takes a long time.
Yeah, boiling water with from snow is quite exhaustive on whatever fuel source you have.
Like, how much milliliters do you reckon you have now?
Not enough.
I guess if you had a bigger pot, it'd be easier.
Yeah. But starting to melt, right?
Yeah. Holy, it's getting cold.
Your hands?
Yeah, my feet, hands. It's the not moving part.
Yeah.
I was like so toasty making that Quinzee. So that's what, like half a cup, you think? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. It's not a lot, right? Because the thing with melting snow for water is it would be better to melt a block of ice, because snow is so full of air that it takes a lot of snow to produce water. Like, I mean, you saw how much snow we put in there. Like, we didn't put a ton, but that's how much water we've yielded so far.
Right.
But because ice is mostly water and there's very little air in it, it would be more efficient to melt ice if you can find it.
Take an ice block, that snow block. So nervous. Okay, it's fine. Guess you can't really see anything. It tastes kind of like marshmallows. What did you have in here before?
I don't want to tell you.
Winter fresh. Freshly made water. So the drone's up in the air, but looking at it, I can't really see the fire, but I can definitely see this Quincy that we built.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the things about fire in a survival situation, aside from you know, keeping you warm, cooking your food, making water safe to drink, keeping animals away, those type of things. It can be also used for signaling. But as you just mentioned with the drone, it's very difficult to see flames by day. So if you're using fire as a signaling method, if it's during the day, you'd be better off using smoke, or what's called a signal fire. And what that is, it's basically, I mean, one common way to do it is you take a bunch of pine boughs that are green, freshly cut, and just essentially you just plop them right on top of your fire. And within about 10 to 15 seconds, provided that your fire is quite robust and you have a good pile of pine boughs, within about 10-15 seconds, you should have quite a large plume of very thick smoke that you can see during the day. But flames are better seen at night. So if you're, again, using fire as a signaling method, it's flames at night, but smoke by day. Well, something else that we're going to try out is stamping out an SOS in the snow. So if in a survival situation, you know, there's a search and rescue team that's coming to look for you, you want to try to do everything that you can to make yourself visible, make things look out of the ordinary. So whether it's using a smoke signal fire by day, stamping out messages in the snow, putting out brightly colored pieces of clothing or objects to make things look out of place, hanging things from trees. Perhaps you have like a sleeping bag, you know, waving that in the air and running around. Color, providing a contrast with color is very helpful, especially bright colors that are not typically found in nature. So there's all these kind of methods that you can use. The signal mirror that we used earlier, you know, that's another way. And it's nice to have at any given time, you know, 3 or 4 different ways of doing any one thing, just in case one of those methods doesn't work. So for instance, that signal mirror is great, but if the sun is not out, it's not going to work. So you want to try to eliminate as many variables that are out of your control as you can. So, you know, if my signal mirror doesn't work because the sun's not out, you know, what else can I do? Maybe I can make a signal fire. Maybe I can stamp out SOS in the snow that we're going to try to do now. There's a variety of different things. Watch yourself. There's only one rule while we're in here. And I seal this up. There's no farting.
That's what I thought. You need to leave some air, right? Yeah. Air holes?
We'll be good for now.
Okay, this thing's saying it's like 13 degrees Celsius. We'll check it back in a little bit and see how it changes or not. So behind you I can see it's blue. So what does that mean when it's blue?
Sometimes it can be hard to judge like how close you're getting to the outer crust of your structure. And the last thing you want to do is put a hole through it. So one really easy way to tell, and this really can only be done in the daytime, is as you're carving towards the outside of the structure, once you start seeing the snow turn kind of like a blue hue, that can be your sign to stop. And so you don't need to poke a bunch of holes in your Quinzee with sticks and things like that, which is like another method, but there's certain issues with that. This one is really simple, and in a survival situation, the simpler you can keep things, the better.
So we're in the Quincy, and I can clearly see the steam coming out of my mouth. So it's definitely not above 0 degrees, but how warm or cold is it inside a Quincy?
Well, it certainly shouldn't get any colder than it already is now. And so it's certainly bearable, and it should only get warmer. If you had a couple candles in here, that would certainly bring the mean temperature up. But it's comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad, especially out there. It was, I think I said minus 24, but when you get that wind in, I guess when it feels like minus 35, minus 40 sometimes.
It feels much colder.
Yeah, but when you're in here, even though it's, last time I checked was like minus 13, inside of here, it feels so much nicer.
Is it as warm as you expected it to feel? I mean, we just got in here, we just sealed it up, but does it feel warmer than you expected?
Not yet, to tell you the truth, because I want to get close. I mean, I know we're not going to get it today, but I want to get it closer to like 0 degrees
Okay.
and see, because I was promised t-shirt weather, and this is not t-shirt weather quite yet. But it's such a nice relief from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
When I was building it inside, I was really warm, and it was fine, no problems. But when I went outside, I'm like, man, it's cold.
Yeah. It's very ironic, but they're really great expedient snow shelters. They don't take a whole lot of technical know-how as opposed to like an igloo. So to knock one of these together is, two of us didn't take too long.
No. What is it, like 30 minutes to pile it up? And I think you said it was going to take an hour to carve it out, but I don't. Did it take that long?
I was trying to under-promise, over-deliver.
Okay. Good work. Good work. Yeah. So let's say hypothetically you're driving across Canada and you get stuck in some bad weather and you can't drive your car any further and you're in, just snow. There's nothing else in southern Saskatchewan. No reason to say that specifically. What? How do you survive in the cold?
So, like, just to make it simple, let's just say for whatever reason you don't have access to your vehicle anymore. You have to kind of move away from your vehicle and make some kind of shelter or something like that.
Right.
Generally speaking, and this is assuming that you don't require first aid and that you're ambulatory. Generally speaking, the priorities and the way you should approach any survival situation, generally speaking, is the following: shelter first, water, fire, and food. Kind of in that order. And the reason for that is in this world of survival, there's this idea, it's known as the rule of threes. So it's a really easy way to remember how to prioritize things. And so the reason why shelter would be first on the list is because you can last in extreme temperatures for roughly 3 hours. So, roughly 3 hours before exposure gets you. And then you can survive roughly 3 days without water before dehydration becomes an issue. And then you can go for roughly 3 weeks without food. So if you kind of take that into consideration, those timelines, then it becomes a little bit more evident why you would want to get shelter squared away first, because you can die much quicker from exposure than you can from dehydration, and you can die much quicker from dehydration than you can from starvation. That's kind of, in a nutshell, the idea why shelter, water, fire, food should kind of be how you prioritize things.
Close to minus 9 degrees. You don't trust it?
No. It seems faulty.
Oh, it's like minus 4? Is that right? Minus 4 degrees? I think you tampered with it.
I didn't. I swear to God, I didn't touch. I just cleared the snow that was caked around it.
So the phone is saying minus 21 outside. I think when I had the thermometer in the shade, it was minus 24. And what does it say right now? That's about minus 5, minus 4 degrees. So there's at least a 20 degrees difference, not factoring in the wind chill. So it's definitely a lot nicer. Not freezing my toes off, not freezing my fingers off. It's nice.
It's comfortable. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
Is it recording? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going home.
Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace.